Right now, someone is telling you to wait because over 30,000 units are coming into the market over the next 2 years. So the advice just writes itself, right? If there's a lot of supply coming, the prices will soften, so just wait. So I want to show you why that advice, which does sound reasonable, but it's actually going to cost a lot of buyers their entry into the market. Because here's the fact that doesn't fit into that story. While the number of supply is climbing higher, yes, but the number of actual private launches this year itself is actually lesser than last year. Of all those projects, they did not just sit into the market, right? There are projects like the Ori, which it's over 80% sold. There's Lindenwood, almost 94% sold. Penreef was 97% sold. And Sky at Holland was almost fully sold, right? It's 99%. So which is it? Is it a supply glut or is it a market that clears almost everything that launches on the weekend itself? And the answer is both. And once you understand why both are true, you stop being someone who tries to time the market and you become someone who reads the market. So for the last few weeks, I've walked through this market from the seller side, from the landed owner side, from the upgrader side, and today it's your turn as a potential buyer. And the single most important thing I can show you is this. Supply is not a crash. Supply is a sorting machine. Old way of reading the number is 32,000 units. That's a huge supply, a one wave, one price effect. So basic economics, when supply is going up, the price might come down, so you wait at the bottom to go into the market. So the problem with that is that this over 30,000 units that is coming into the market is not one single product. It's hundreds of different assets in several different locations and across years of completion. Some sits on top of the Amrati station, some is in a place that is 15 minutes away from nothing at all, some is in a precinct that the government is pouring billions and millions of dollars into, and some is just filling out the corner of a map that's already full. So when you average all of that into one number and one decision, which is to wait, then you've thrown away the only critical information that matters. So here's the new way that I want you to think. You can thank me in the future, but for now, subscribe to the channel. If you're someone who wants actual useful knowledge without all the hype and all the marketing gimmick that you see in the market. So as I was saying, a supply wave is not something that pushes all the prices down equally. To be honest, it widens the gap between assets that can hold the value and the assets that don't. So when the stock is scarce, you don't have a lot of supply in the market. Every single mediocre project gets carried along and all increase in price together. But when the supply is abundant, like now, buyers get choice. And choice is ruthless. The well-located, well-designed, well-connected project still sells out on the launch weekend. And the undifferentiated ones are the ones that sit on the market, potentially discounting and disappointing you in the future when you try to exit. So the supply wave is not your enemy. It is a sorting machine, like I mentioned. It does all the hard work of separating the winning assets to the losing ones. And only if you know what you're looking at. And it punishes everyone who bought on a FOMO basis. You see people buying, you also want to buy. So that means the question is never when do I buy? It's about what do I buy? The selection process. And I always say this to my client. Timing is the amateur's obsession. You don't try to time the market. Selection is the professional's discipline. That is what separates you from the other buyers. Now, the cost of getting this wrong. There are two ways to get it wrong. The wrong way, number one, is you wait for this supply glut to come and crash the prices. But land costs are elevated and the good stock keeps clearing away. So that crash never really comes in the way that you imagine it to be. The prices on the right asset plateau and then it resumes again. You basically waited for an event that did not arrive at all. And your entry on the project that you are interested in is now closed off. So I've met a lot of buyers like this over the years. Years pass by and they just repeat the same process over and over again. But that's your choice. I won't pressure you to make any move, right? But just know that the opportunity cost is huge. So the wrong way, number two, is a FOMO buyer, like I mentioned. You panic and you buy into a project because of all the hype on the launch day itself. And that project doesn't really have the strong value to hold it over a good and a bad market. You might feel it on the exit when the buyer pool has over 30,000 units, alternatives from you, and yours isn't special. So both mistakes come from the same root. You treat it as a timing problem rather than a selection problem. And this is exactly what my blueprint is built to solve. This is to stress test a project and your own position specifically just for you before you fall in love with any project. You're gonna know if you are entering at a safe price, not just cheaper from last year, that is just a headline trap. The real test is how does this project sit against the comparables around the area, how much did the developer paid for the project, and how much are they pricing it to you, because this will affect your exit plan in the future when you try to move to your next one. The entry is about the floor that you enter into, not the discount that you're getting. The next one is the livability of the project, and this protects your home for the next 5 to 10 years. What is the site plan like? What is the density of the project? How is the floor plan in the house? Are you paying for space that is usable, or are you paying for wasted space? A nice brochure, a nice rooflet can hide certain things that are less than ideal, but livability is the difference between a home that people compete for and a home that people just walk past. Now, third is the appeal. The organic demand drivers of the unit that you're getting. What is the transformation potential in the area? What does the master plan say about that place? Is the government going to be investing more into this area, or is it already complete? The amenities, the connectivity, the feel-good factor that makes the buyer choose your house over the next one. So underneath these 3 value filter, you got to know the intrinsic demand of the project. Who is going to buy this from you next time and why? You can answer that with specifics, you are safe. Now let me show you how the sorting machine is already running right now. And not just now, even last year in 2025. This is not just an imagination of the future. So as I mentioned, a number of projects cleared out last year, such as the Ori, Lindenwood, Penreef, Sky at Holland. And you might think that is 2025, what about this year? Well, we have projects that cleared more than 90%, such as Pinery, Revel at Tampines, which is just next door, Tengah Garden Residences just recently, and even Vela Bay, which is in the Bayshore precinct, sold over 70%. So let's think about that Vela Bay number, 72% over the launch weekend. And some people who are not familiar with the location might think it's an untested place. That gap from 72% to 99% is what frames the sorting machine. Location, connectivity, design, the market is pricing all that in real time. The good stock will clear and the undifferentiated stock will sit on the market for a longer period of time. So when someone tells you to wait for the price to drop, what exactly are they telling you? The best projects are still moving. Waiting doesn't get you anywhere because it gets you locked out of the possibilities that were already presented to you. So this is where I come in and I give you a no-nonsense, brutal truth advice. No gimmick and no typical hype nonsense that you see out there. You won't see me dancing in a show flat or in my client's landed home trying to sell that to you. I'm here to provide value. So let's sit down and I'll map out the suitable path for you, fully tailored to your family, not some generic market suggestion you can get with ChatGPT. I'd rather you learn about your position and all the blind spots which is most critical than listen to some passing comments with no substance. So if you do have a short list of projects that you are currently considering and you're weighing your options, DM the word select to me. I'll run through this project through my blueprint, the CORVIN method, and I will tell you honestly which projects you should be considering and which one you should walk away from. See you in the next one.